Today on the Big 3 and 30, Texas hits a game winner in the first four.
The Texas Longhorns escape NC State in the first four of the NCAA tournament.
North Carolina hopes to heat up for a tournament run.
Carolina, kind of, as I said, limping into the NCAA tournament a little bit.
And Ohio State starts the round of 64 tomorrow against TCU.
68 teams are preparing to play in this year's NCAA tournament.
This is the Big 3 and 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 and 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 and 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Texas Longhorns and NC State Wolfpack played a great game in the first four of the NCAA tournament last night, with Tramon Mark hitting the game winner with a second to play for the Longhorns to move on. Brad Kellner recaps the win on Locked On Longhorns.
Wow. The Texas Longhorns escape NC State in the first four of the NCAA tournament. 68-66, the Longhorns get the job done. Tramon Mark, the game winner with 1.1 seconds left to break a tie. It's the fifth game winner of Tramon Mark's college career, and he's hit some big shots at the University of Texas. None bigger than that one. My goodness, what a roller coaster game that was. And the Longhorns had an 8-point lead with less than 2 minutes to go. This game was pretty close, but Texas played with the lead for most of the night. Felt like the Longhorns had finally done enough to distance themselves and put NC State away. And then the Wolfpack, give them credit. Look, Texas made some mistakes, and we'll get to some of those mistakes. The Longhorns need to work on their press break. There's no doubt about that. But NC State hit three of the craziest threes that you will ever see. Of course, it's March Madness for a reason. Crazy things happen in this tournament. And NC State, McNeil hits both of those corner threes where he's like fading away, and Jordan Pope's right in his face. And then Darian Williams hits a crazy step back three over Tramon Mark. Like, Texas was playing very good defense. They played great defense all night long, which is a miracle for this team. They were playing great defense on all three of those shots, yet NC State knocked them all down, and all of a sudden, we go from an 8-point lead in the final couple of minutes to it's a 2-point game. Then Dalen Swain somehow turns it over. NC State goes to the line. They make a free throw. They tie it. If they made both free throws, they would have had a lead, and it could have been game blouses. But Texas gets the ball. They've got basically the final possession of the game. And Tramon Mark, look, I'll be honest, I have been very critical of Tramon Mark over his Texas career. I was critical of the way he played early in this game tonight, and he shut me up. Two massive shots in the final minute, one of them to turn a 2-point game into a 4-point game before the comedy of errors that Texas had to keep giving NC State life. And then obviously the game winner in the final couple of seconds. 17 points for him. And again, none bigger than those final two. Wow, man, with some of the losses that Texas has had in this tournament in my lifetime, it felt like the way NC State was making shots and the way Texas was kind of imploding, that here we go again. There's about to be another one on the way. And I'll be honest, even after Tramon Mark made that shot, I was getting flashbacks to a certain game in a certain tournament that I don't want to say because we're all in a good mood, but unfortunately everybody knows what I'm talking about. I was still worried about a half-court shot going in with some of the tournament failures that this Texas basketball team has had in the last 2 decades or so. But thankfully, a risky block attempt by Dalen Swain. Dickie V thought it was a foul. We'll get to the TV broadcast a little bit later because, oh my goodness, that was a joke. There were a couple of dozen times where I thought about muting it, and I'm mad at myself for not muting it, or at least like syncing my television to the radio broadcast so we could listen to the great Craig Way instead of that. But risky attempt by Dalen Swain. It was all ball, a clear block. And hey, don't leave any doubt. Don't let that shot go up. If you could swat it away before it gets close, go ahead and do just that. My goodness, what a win for Texas basketball. And the Longhorns are moving on to take on BYU. I mentioned it earlier. What a game on defense for this Texas basketball team. Look, I don't think anyone saw 68-66 coming tonight. The first time these two teams met back at the Maui Invitational the day before Thanksgiving, this was a 102-97 game. I mean, defense was optional in that one. Both teams made everything that they shot. In this game, it was an offensive struggle. The defense deserves some credit. Obviously, the pressure of March, I think, maybe played a factor in this one, but a total 180 from what we saw in the first meeting between these two teams. But I'm looking at Texas basketball right now, y'all. The last time they gave up 66 points or less in a game, the win over Vanderbilt, 80-64. That game in Austin early in SEC play. That was the fourth conference game of the year for the Longhorns. That was a huge win for Texas, by the way. Vandy came into Austin ranked number 10 in the country. They were undefeated at the time. That was a long time ago. That's the last time Texas has held an opponent to 66 points or less. And again, without those Hail Mary shots that NC State made in the final 90 seconds or so, Texas could have held that team to the 50s. A really good defensive effort by the Longhorns tonight. They were aggressive. They were attacking. They were switching. And, man, I'll give those guys credit because, look, we've all been very critical of Texas on that end of the floor all season long, and rightfully so. I mean, Texas entered the night with the 13th ranked defense in the country, according to KenPom. The reason I'm not so sure is I just updated KenPom, and now the Longhorns are 95 in defensive efficiency. Still not great. I'm not here to tell you that that's good enough to make a deep run in the tournament, but the Longhorns jumped up somewhere close to 20 spots in terms of defensive efficiency just because of this game tonight and the way they shut down NC State. I mean, Van Allen Lubin, their big guy, that's a dude who averages 14 points per game. Texas held him to just 6 points on 2 of 6 shooting. He fouled out. He was a non-factor. Paul McNeil hit those crazy threes, but before then, I think he only had 5 points. Yeah, he ended with 11. So before those 2 prayer threes, he had 5 points. That's another guy who averages 14. Quadir Copeland, their point guard, who scored 28 against Texas in Maui. Texas held him to just 16. Now, outside of Darian Williams, who was a beast for Texas Tech last year, helped the Red Raiders get all the way to the Elite Eight. That's a hell of a tournament player, just a hell of a player in general. And that dude was the preseason ACC Player of the Year. Didn't have a great season, but outside of him, nobody really went off against this Texas team, and we've seen offenses a lot worse than NC State have way more success against the Longhorn defense, right? NC State was 20th in the country in offensive efficiency coming into tonight, and Texas made life very difficult for them all game long. It's credit to Sean Miller and this coaching staff for coming up with a really good game plan, but also credit to the guys for executing that game plan. How about Kendall Weaver? How about Kendall Weaver, y'all? And by the way, keep the comments coming, the questions coming. If you're tuned into the live stream, we'll definitely get to those here in a moment, but I don't want to go any further. We're already almost 8 minutes in, and I have not brought up Kendall Weaver's name. You know, he had 17 points in the first matchup between Texas and NC State, a season high by far for Kendall Weaver, and he didn't do anything against Ole Miss. I think he had 1 point in the Longhorns SEC tournament loss last Wednesday. I wasn't quite sure what type of impact, if any, he was going to have on this game. How about a double-double? 11 points, 10 rebounds, 4 offensive boards for Kendall Weaver. He was flying all over the place. Kendall Weaver was so good, he could make Dickie V and Charles Barkley actually talk about the Texas game. Those guys were talking about every other game and every other thing in the world. And then Kendall Weaver would make an amazing play, or he'd fly in for a rebound, or he'd block a shot or whatever. And then the guys were like, oh, this Kendall Weaver guy is really good. Maybe we should talk about the game that we're actually calling. That would have been nice. But Kendall Weaver, man, look, he's a senior. He is a senior. If Texas lost, that would have been his last game. And he did not want to go out like that. He played horribly against Ole Miss. He did not want another bad game. Obviously didn't want to lose. That is such a team-first guy who has meant so much to Texas basketball. He's been through a lot with coaching changes and all sorts of roster turnover during his few years in Austin. For him to have that game today was awesome, and he's going to be very important for Texas moving forward. They're going to need that same energy and fire on both ends of the floor if they are going to knock off BYU on Thursday. Oh, my God, it's so nice to talk about another game, isn't it? It is so nice to talk about another game. I remember last year, Texas losing in the first four. I mean, it's such a long season, and the pain of this tournament is that you could be amazing in the regular season. Obviously, Texas last year wasn't. They were playing in the first four. But if you have one bad night, it's over. Like 4 to 5 months of a regular season, if you just no-show on one night, then that's it. That's it. You got to wait 8 months to watch your team play again. And with college basketball nowadays, it ain't the same team that you saw the year before. It's so nice. I know it's only one day off in between games, but so nice to not be talking about a first four loss for the second consecutive year. And Kendall Weaver, obviously Tremont Marks, clutch shooting, huge. But Kendall Weaver, I think, is the biggest reason why Texas won this game tonight. The Longhorns did not get enough from Dalen Swain. I thought Modest Vokatitis was good. Again, foul problems for him. I'm so excited. I know a lot of Texas fans are like, I don't want to see Modest anymore. Get rid of this guy. I think that's crazy. We're talking about a true sophomore here who's already gotten so much better as this year has gone along. I can't wait to see what he does next year. Not that I'm ready to pull a plug on this season yet, but foul trouble, an issue for him. Still gave 15 points, did miss 5 free throws. If Texas lost this game, yes, we would have been talking about the inability to break the press and the incredibly untimely turnovers down the stretch. But the Longhorns missed 8 free throws. Like, if they would have lost this game, it would have been by 1 or 2 points. And, I'm looking right at the free throw numbers and seeing Texas shooting 21 of 29. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's where the game was lost right there. Modest missed 5. It wasn't just him, but he was the biggest offender at the free throw line. He's been a very good, especially for a guy his size, he has been a very good free throw shooter this year. He did not have it tonight. And then Dalen Swain. Man, Dalen Swain's obviously been the best player and the most valuable player on this team all year long, but he has disappeared as of late. He had a horrible game against Oklahoma, didn't do a ton against Ole Miss. Nobody really did. And then tonight, I mean, you see the 13 points, but 2 of 9 from the floor. He had 5 turnovers, bad misses on defense. Like, he was fumbling the ball around. He's the guy who had the super costly turnover in the final minute that gave NC State an opportunity to tie the game and take the lead at the free throw line. Like, you can get mad at Sean Miller for inbounding the ball in the corner or calling a play that inbounds the ball in the corner, but Dalen Swain had plenty of time to pass the ball or to dribble. Like, he just stood there frozen like a deer in the headlights, looking like somebody who's never played basketball before. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? And he just loses the ball out of bounds.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late night shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any kind of college hoops parlay you want. You want to pick a big underdog? You want to pick a huge favorite? There's plenty of options for you the next couple weeks. Then you apply that profit boost and instantly bump up your potential payout. Go safe. Go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style. Now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. North Carolina isn't playing its best basketball going into the NCAA tournament, but the Tar Heels still hope to make another deep run. Isaac Shade looks at the tournament path on Locked On Tar Heels.
I want to ask Pete to put on his Hubert Davis mask, and what would his message be to the team? Then we want to look at kind of like, Seth Trimble. It's do or die time for him. Additionally, what is the message to the team as they're without Caleb Wilson? Obviously, how do you kind of continue to wrap your brain around that? And then we'll wrap up just talking about some of Pete's memories in the NCAA tournament. Had some really interesting things. As part of that, a big old win as a over a 1 seed in the second round, making it to the Final Four his senior year, and more. And of course, I'm going to ask Pete to make a prediction for the Tar Heels against VCU tomorrow night. So, Pete, let's dive right into this. I want to ask you, Carolina, kind of, as I said, limping into the NCAA tournament a little bit back-to-back losses, obviously losing to Duke in the regular season finale, and then a massive comeback that fell just short against Clemson in the ACC quarterfinals. If you're Hubert Davis, what is your message to the team ahead of tomorrow night's matchup with VCU?
Well, that's a great question. As a fan, we have all kinds of opinions, but as a head coach, you got to be out there, and Hubert's going to be out there just motivating his team and getting them pumped up. This is our chance, this is it for our season, put everything on the line. And yeah, we can harp as a fan, we'll harp about what's happened or what we didn't do right. But I think as a coach, you're looking forward, you're being positive about what this team does have. And I think the benefit from the Caleb Wilson situation it's been a while now that he's been out. So I think we should be comfortable with what we have on the floor. And we haven't talked about it, but the second half of our ACC schedule was really tough. And we played extremely well without Caleb. I think we went 6-2 on the back end, and that was impressive. And I think that built each player's individual confidence in what they can do without Caleb. And whether we actually can do it 6 times in a row is yet to be seen. But I think we have so much potential. And I was working out this morning. I was thinking we have 5 or 6 guys that really, really can lead us in scoring on any given night. So if we can have some of those guys step up, I think that's what Hubert's going to focus on is what can we do to get each of these players that are capable to get them going during the game and focus on that as we prep for this game.
I want to follow up on that, Pete, because that's some great points. And in your mind, right? Like we've had multiple Tar Heels step up either into bigger roles and succeed or just maybe incrementally do a little bit more to help the team. Who in your mind are maybe 2 or 3 of those guys that you mentioned that have really shown you something down this stretch here as Carolina, as you said, has had a plus 500 record even without Caleb Wilson?
Well, that's easy with the first one. I think Henry has done an amazing job down low. He's so versatile and he's so consistent. We can count the number of bad games, and I say bad in parentheses, that he's hit this season. But he's been powerful down low. He's been able to hit the shot. He makes great decisions. Like I don't think you could say he's forced any shots for maybe this whole season. The shots he takes are pretty good shots every single time. He's obviously number one for me. The other guy that stepped up more recently is our freshman point guard. I mean, where has Derek Dixon been all season? Like that makes it so much better that he's peaking at the end of the season. And the thing I like about him is clutch shots. It's not just making shots in the first half or late in the early in the second half. It's clutch time. He's making some big baskets. I think Jaron Stevenson has stepped up, increased his role, his inside presence. We've talked about what he can do athletically all year, but now you're starting to see it. He's been more assertive. He's taking more shots, which I think is good for our team. He's getting more rebounds. He's always had that long athletic frame. But you throw in guys like Luka, who's had a big game that last game against Clemson, but not in the tournament. You got Seth, who can at any game can control some stuff with his driving and his defense. So again, I mean, those are 3 guys, but really that's the thing I mentioned. 3, 4, or 5 guys have the potential to really step up, and I think we've seen sparks from all those guys at the end of the year.
I want to follow up on the Henry side of it, Pete, because as a big man yourself, obviously, I know you understand the frustration of I'm not bringing the ball up, right? I can only impact on ball things if a guard gets me the ball. Obviously, there's screening and other things you can do. But one of the things I feel like, especially without Caleb, that Carolina is able to do so well is function through Henry, whether that's scoring or facilitating, whatever that may be. But even with his 28-17 against Clemson, it felt like there was a stretch in the first half where it was almost like the rest of the team forgot that they had the biggest dude on the court and could play through him a lot. And it felt like, yes, he had a lot of shots. Yes, he had a lot of stuff. But I felt like there could have and probably should have been more. How, as a big yourself, would you talk to those guards if you were Coach Davis about, hey, guys, we have to play through Henry right now because he's probably the best asset we have in our favor?
Yeah, that's a great point. The thing that is different with going through big guys in the Carolina system, if you go through a guy like DeBonsa for BYU, you're probably not going to see the ball again. Our offense is geared towards inside out, and I think Henry has proven, as I just mentioned, he doesn't take a lot of bad shots. I'd rather have him taking a 3 or 4 foot jump hook over, a contested 20-footer. And I trust him to know the difference between forcing that shot or getting it to an open shooter. Caleb did a great job as well when he was playing. It's just our mindset here at Carolina is inside out, and it doesn't mean inside and stay inside. That's the benefit of playing with the big. And so I would agree. We need to make that message clear that no matter what, we're going to go inside and we're going to milk that matchup. No matter who's guarding him, he's 7 feet. He can score inside. He's going to have that advantage. And whether he scores or not, if he kicks it out, he kicks it out. But we got to go through him at first. And I agree. I mean, you can look at him when he's with Caleb. You could say, okay, well, we're going to split the ball up a little bit. But he's literally our main focus down low now, and he should get the majority of the balls. And again, he's making great decisions down there. So I think that's something Coach Davis will be talking about as we go into this first game.
And I love your point, Pete, that it's so nice that Henry's not a black hole, as you see some other bigs sometimes doing. You mentioned DeBonsa and others that once the ball goes in, it might never see the light of day again. And so that's some good news for Carolina.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late night shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any kind of college hoops parlay you want. You want to pick a big underdog? You want to pick a huge favorite? There's plenty of options for you the next couple weeks. Then you apply that profit boost and instantly bump up your potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style. Now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Ohio State plays the first game of the round of 64 Thursday afternoon when the Buckeyes face off against the Horned Frogs of TCU. Locked On Buckeyes host Jay Stevens previews the matchup.
68 teams are preparing to play in this year's NCAA tournament. It doesn't matter if you're playing in the first 4 or if you're playing in the first round on Thursday or Friday. Everybody is preparing to play the best basketball of the year. And everybody's trying to lean on their leaders and trying to find a guy that is built for March, built for this big stage that they can lean on in big moments. Well, when you look at Ohio State's roster, you have guys like John Mobley Jr., Amari Bynum, Devin Royal, guys that have been really good players for Ohio State all year long. But there's one guy that outshines them all, and his name is Bruce Thornton. You think about Bruce Thornton and what he's meant to Ohio State, the kind of player he's been during his 4 years in Columbus, and he's the kind of guy that the Buckeyes can lean on to take them on an unexplainable tournament run. Bruce Thornton is that kind of lead guard that makes opponents scared, nervous in the NCAA tournament. I remember talking about Carson Edwards and Kemba Walker. I mean, you can look at tournament after tournament after tournament and look at teams that were not expected to make it to the Sweet 16. All of a sudden, they get there. Then they make it to the Elite Eight. Sometimes they make it to the Final Four, and you look to see how did they get there? What player stepped up? And more often than not, there's going to be a really good lead guard that became an efficient and elite scorer game after game after game. Bruce Thornton's that guy. Think about how he's played this year, how he's just been the businessman every time he's on the court. I think back to the time when he broke Ohio State's scoring record to become the all-time leading scorer in Buckeye basketball history. He came down on a fast break, popped that 3 on the left wing. He immediately went back on defense. He didn't start to celebrate and just really become one of the moment. He didn't let the crowd or the roar of the fans overtake him. No, he stayed locked in the entire time. And I'm sure he celebrated at halftime. That shot came right before halftime in the game against the Indiana Hoosiers on senior day. But in the game, between the lines, Bruce Thornton was all business. Not only was he all business, one of my favorite things about him and watching him play is his feel for the game and knowing when to do certain moves. Knowing that maybe his mid-range jumper off a 2-dribble pull-up has been working throughout the game, but maybe that time down the court, that's not the time to use that move. Maybe it is back him down a little bit, do a half spin, and then go to the basket because you realize he's expecting a move that works for you pretty frequently, but now the time to go a little bit deeper in your bag to do something else. And his feel for the game is great. There are times when you look out there, you see, when is this the time for a three? You don't need one, but he knows he's open, he's efficient, his brain is locked in, and he shoots it. And in the tournament, when you have a team like Ohio State who's matched up with TCU early in the first round, when I say early, they are really tipping off the first round of the tournament. And then the expected team they would play if they get past TCU is Duke. In my bracket, I have St. John's and Kansas meeting in the second round of the tournament. I have St. John's winning that game. It would be Ohio State versus St. John's in the Sweet 16. Diebler versus Rick Pitino. I mean, on paper, it's an easy St. John's win. But if Bruce Thornton continues to do Bruce Thornton things and shoot the way that he is and being a monster in the paint and scoring in the paint at a high clip, the Buckeyes could get past them too. If Kansas is the team that they play at that point of the bracket, could they get past Kansas? I mean, Kansas has a really good big man of Floyd Badunga. Is it possible? They also have Darren Peterson. Is it possible? It is possible because of Bruce Thornton. He is the kind of player that you can lean on, and he can make big shot after big shot after big shot. And you're thinking, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Well, he's been the same player all year, but he just doesn't want to end his collegiate career yet. Bruce Thornton is that kind of guy. And while he is that kind of guy, it's not just an individual effort. The other players will follow him. I mean, you look at Amari Bonner's play over the past few weeks. His play has gone up and up and up. It has also led him to jump out of the gym over and over and over again. He had a dunk. I don't know if it was against Iowa or IU, but he had a dunk where it's like he was trying to break the rim off the backboard. I mean, he just jammed that thing in very, very hard. Well, he's not trying to let his leader down in Bruce Thornton. John Mobley Jr. was out for a little bit. He was a guy that had a hand injury. When he came back, you saw him play very, very well. Shooting the ball, had a high clip. I think he had a game where he made 8 or 9 threes late in the year after he came back. After that hand injury, you're going to see Devin Royal play very, very well. Yeah, he had a down game where he didn't really do much. But after that, he followed that game up with a performance where he scored 25 points. And all of these guys are going to raise their level of play as Bruce Thornton keeps his at an all-time level to make an unexplainable tournament run. I mean, unexplainable when you look at, well, a couple of weeks down the road, maybe a month down the road, you look back to the tournament, you think, that Ohio State team wasn't supposed to make it to the tournament. They weren't playing like a tournament team. They were pretty inconsistent at times. Yes, the Big Ten is tough, but they were playing down to who they were playing. They weren't staying at their own standard. And then all of a sudden, they found a way to get into the tournament. And Bruce Thornton said, "We not done yet. We're not going home yet. Oh, no. He don't want to get ready for the NBA draft. He wants to keep his collegiate career alive. He is a kind of guy that if I am TCU and I'm trying to find a way to game plan Bruce Thornton, if you want to blitz 2 guys at him like some teams have done, that might work a little bit. It might not work the entire game. Because at times you're going to find with the way Ohio State has been playing and as they've been more efficient and really just been more confident in who they are as a team, they might play so well, meaning the other Buckeyes outside Bruce Thornton, that they force you to get out of that defense and play more of a traditional man-to-man or transition into a zone, whatever the case may be. You can't continue that same approach because the Buckeyes will have answers. They will also have an answer, we think, in Brandon Knoll. This is going to come up more later on in the show when we talk about Jake Diebler. But Brandon Knoll is healthy. I don't know how big of a scorer he will be off the bench. You would love to get 5 to 8 points, really 5 to 10 points from him, but 5 to 8 would be better than what the Buckeyes have gotten from most of the players on the bench this year because it's been pretty poor. It's been pretty sad, the production that hasn't come from the guys that come off the bench. But if Brandon Knoll is able to go and able to get back to the level of Brandon Knoll, that level of play that he had early in the year before his injury, that will be another box check for the Buckeyes because you're unsure what you're going to get. If you get a decent or above average Brandon Knoll, that's a huge boost for the Buckeyes as they strive to make an unexplainable tournament run in 2026.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.